Welcome and good noon to everyone, our esteemed guest and lovely audience. Thank you for joining us for today's webinar. My name is Himani Kaushik, and I am a pre-sales consultant at Conix RM, a Nepal technology company, which is based out of Noida and headquartered in Singapore. Our company is a renowned name that has made its global presence in terms of technology. We are working to bring complete digitalization in business world and enterprises in numerous ways, like bringing revolution in existing business by transforming it into digitalization, aiding startups, emerging companies to convert their disruptive ideas into digital business reality using an agile approach across applications, infrastructure, IT, and information security. Before we start, I would request you all to put yourself on mute to avoid background disturbances in between. All right. As you all know, that COVID-19 has resulted in schools shut all across the world, due to which education has changed dramatically. A lot has been discussed on the impact COVID-19 has had on the economy, social classes, and the environment. But we are more concerned about the impact it is having on the education system. It is well known that investment in the education system has a very high incubation period. As a result, the current impacts of the pandemic on the education system would also have a high incubation period, making them difficult to measure in the long run. It's quite clear that this pandemic has utterly disrupted an education system. So, looking at the situation, we are presenting on the topic, need for school to embrace the technology in the emerging new normal post-COVID-19. Needless to say, the pandemic has transformed the centuries-old chalk talk teaching model to one driven by technology. This disruption in the delivery of education is pushing policymakers to figure out how to drive engagement at scale while ensuring inclusive e-learning solutions and tackling the digital divide. It's obvious that whether we bring technology into our classrooms or not, our students will be digital citizens for the rest of their lives. And this is an ideal time to experiment and deploy new tools to make education delivery meaningful to students who can't go to schools, universities, or campuses. It's a chance to be more efficient and productive while developing new and improved professional skills, knowledge, learning, and assessment. We all know that our students love technology. Now, we have access to something students love and have the ability to channel it into learning. Polling apps allow us to assess our students' understanding in a way they will find exciting and enjoyable. Access to videos, animations, diagrams, and more make it easy for us to show students what we are talking about instead of just explaining it. If utilized properly, teachers today have an entire world of tools to engage and involve our students in learning that no other educators in the history of education have ever had. With a variety of thinkers and learners that need other outlets of learning and applying their skills, a digital approach is necessary. When technology is used properly, it can significantly increase student engagement from those who may have initially lacked interest, as well as improving their results. You know, over 70 research studies have proven that technology has positive outcomes for students at risk of failing, and these studies highlight three important elements. These are, number one, interactive learning, two, use of technology to explore and create rather than drill and kill, third, right blend of teachers and technology. Teachers can no longer simply teach page to page from a textbook and expect students to retain all that information. Students today need to be able to analyze, synthesize, evaluate, compare and contrast, and manipulate and apply information in order to be successful. And implementing technology in the classroom and preparing students with skills they can utilize in their future. And this would be the best method for teaching in the 21st century, It is the reason why education should continue to explore and embrace technological integration now and for years to come. Before I over to speaker, let me explain how you can talk to us during the webinar. If you have any questions during the webinar, just write them to chat. We'll have a question and answer session at the end to answer all your questions. We will also be sending you an e-certificate for attending the webinar. So now I'm going to invite our first speaker, Prashansa Singh, who is a business unit head for handling client relationship. She has more than 10 years of experience and has been instrumental in delivering and supporting enterprise-level projects for multiple domains, including education in multiple geographies. Over to you, ma'am. Prashansa, ma'am, are you there? Sorry, audience, due to some technical glitches and problem, we're trying to connect Prashansa ma'am online. Please bear with some patience.
Himani, am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Okay. So thank you, Himani, for the lovely introduction. It's an honor for me to be here today and share the online space with the esteemed guests we have today here with us. A very good afternoon to all of you. And I look forward to interact more with you in the Q&A session. Before this, I would definitely want to put forward a few viewpoints which I have with me to share with all of you. Now, as we all know, the coronavirus outbreak has evidently been a sledgehammer blow to our global economy. The pandemic has left stock markets to bleed, it has hampered the supply chains, and triggered a slowdown amounting to massive losses. Well, the education landscape is neither indifferent nor immune to this pandemic. Our institutions have shut down, the exams have been postponed. Some want unconditional promotion to higher classes, some dispute on the grounds of merit. The teachers, the students, and the management staff, they're also finding it very difficult to commute to the schools. There is very little learning which is going on. The banks, they're also working on very limited basis, and that too in high priority area. If I talk about the UNESCO report, there are about 1.54 billion children who are estimated to get affected due to this COVID-19 closures, and over 111 million girls across the least developed countries, they happen to be the biggest losers. These large numbers are feared to lose months of learning, and even if the situation gets behind us, the cost of bringing these students back on track will go up sharply. From the business perspective, the closures have created tremendous financial pressure on the schools. With no revenue coming in, the schools and the colleges will eventually be forced to roll out pay cuts and put students, teachers, and the professors respectively on the chopping block, a scenario that will contribute to the global surge in unemployment claims. Now, while this COVID-19 situation has hit some uncomfortable chords, it has also created a ripple effect, which is leading to educational innovations and with virtual avenues gaining vast popularity. Though I would definitely like to emphasize on the fact that the education industry has relatively been slow in adapting to digital disruption. With centuries-old lecture-based approaches, outmoded classrooms, and an entrenched resistance to eliminate the institutional biases, they have been far from the frontrunner of changes. However, the COVID-19 events have raised the red flags for the industry, and it has pushed the education industry to digital innovation 3.0. Now, until very recently, there used to be a never-ending debate on whether a student information system can satisfy the needs of schools as per the standards today, and if the online learning and the distance education would be as effective as traditional education systems. Sometime in the second week of March, the state governments across the country began shutting down schools temporarily, and now it's been more than a month, and there is no certainty when they will reopen. Time for the education fast services today, the platforms which could serve the need in each area of an education. As per my discussion with certain esteemed education, I have to rate my top. There are 5 requirements. Customers are crazy, keeping through the student information. Then smooth streaming of online live classes facility. The third one being ensuring uninterrupted student to student and student teacher, and in fact teacher to parent interaction. Then management of overall classes with class information that are running currently at a glance. Also, the platforms which can run on low bandwidth. Functionalities like whiteboard or writing surface, they are actually of utmost importance today. Enabling the submission of assessments, tests, and assignments online, that is also very much required. Another factor is the M-learning, which is the mobile learning, is now more important than ever. Stakeholders want to be able to access the material anywhere, anytime. There are many competitors in the market too, in fact. Now, so with us, there was a question that how and why we are different and advanced from the other free platforms which are available and other paid services which are available in the market. So moving on to my next slide, answering to all of these questions. We have the SI system that has changed over time, and we have tried to incorporate all of these requirements which the education sector is looking for these days. We have added student and health information for schools to be able to track, and every information related to that provided them with an admin portal to create and manage all the classes. The management is in fact is on and we have also created the whole infra of the school, which is the team's capability, and provides the facility for the students to come and join the classes with just one link. And the teachers will be changing their lectures as they would normally do in a regular classroom. Through our enablement kit, it will keep the commission of the students or the parents involved. Then we have also added the concept of timetable, the lesson plans, and the assignments to the bundle, so that all of that, along with the study material management, can be managed at the central and a single UI level. Not just this, we have also given them a functionality to get their notification channel up and running, because they would need more information to be sent through SMS. And all of these functions are paid through EUPP, which is our unified payment portal, where they can avail the services of making their student pay fees online without any after implementation. In fact, our solution is completely mobile friendly to ensure anytime, anywhere access. And last but not the least, we have added the portal for online assessment to make the offers more practical and useful for the end customers. Now they can design their own questions, test papers, and have students practice by innovating and mixing the features of the student management system like Elite SIS and then enabling an online kit over it. We have now been successfully able to transform the education style of more than 50 schools in less than 1 month's time frame. Now, to make this bundled offering more user-friendly, we have actually made an offer, which is a complete SaaS package, in which we have added the training for the teachers, the business hour support for next 6 months, and the email IDs for all the teachers and the students into one package. And all of this is being implemented for a single school in a total of 4 working days from the date of data collection. With this, we see the culture of learning anywhere or anytime gaining ground. Also, we have seen that the proctoring and assessment solutions, which have been around for a while, have mostly been a victim of neglect, are experiencing an uptick in the market engagement and have found themselves an active role in strengthening the field of digital learning. So without taking much time, I would like to close my session, bringing focus on the point that though the automated systems are gaining ground, there is a digital skills shortage that can potentially hold back the promise of digital learning. Fortunately, the education institutions these days are quick enough to act and accelerate their efforts to help their workforces scale and adapt to the new dynamics of work. But we must not forget that the digital training sessions, the workshops, and the webinars which are required to be organized to speed up with the emerging need and help the teachers and the faculties to ensure the continuity of learning in every way possible. In fact, the counseling sessions are also required to inspire the teachers and to empower them to make a seamless transition from the chalkboards to the digital screens and help them feel secure in the new environment. Thank you. With this, I close my speech for today. Over to you, Himani.
Thank you, Prashansa ma'am. Thank you, Prashansa ma'am, and I'm really awestruck by the list of features you talked about. Had we ever thought a small online solution can have so many features? I'm sure this combination of Elite SIS and Elite UPP bringing into focus to B2B combined with the B2C model in the COVID-19 era is definitely a solution everyone should look forward to have. Audience, as I mentioned, please keep trying your questions in the chat box so that we can take those up in the question and answer slot. Now, without a further delay, I will turn the time over and hand over the mantle to our first guest of the day, Mr. Sameer Kanwar, a CEO of Basel Technology Partners from Singapore. He has over 25 years of industry experience and has been instrumental in guiding a portfolio of companies to scale their operations. In his role as a private equity investor currently, he guides 6 companies across business strategy, merger, and acquisition to drive exponential growth. Here we call upon Mr. Sameer Kanwar to share his perspective on how an active investor views the impact of digital economy in the field of education post-COVID-19 and why educational institutions should really move towards digital platform now. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Imani. Thank you very much for inviting me on this particular event. I'm actually just going to share my screen right now. So let me know if there's an issue. Okay, good evening, everybody. I hope you can actually see my screen now. I just, I've been asked to speak on technology adoption to drive schools' digital economy. I personally would like to call it more from a perspective of saying the technology adoption to drive schools into the digital economy. So that is what is going to be the key focus of what I'm going to be talking about. Before I just use the next 15 minutes to talk about the session, I may just want to point out that there might be certain, because of an overload of the internet, there might be certain periods where there might be an outage. I hope you bear with me on that aspect. A very quick introduction to Basel. Himani did talk about the fact that I've been associated with the IT industry for over 25 years. From a Basel perspective, we are a team of experienced partners who have been very focused in terms of working with niche IT services companies. For the last 12 years, we've been primarily driving a lot of the niche IT services, and the digital technologies is what we really focus on today in terms of digital business transformation. The team, not only gets involved with respect to investments, but we also help in terms of managing the companies as an operating partner. And to that extent, Apart Technologies is one of the 6 companies we currently have investments in and are helping in their growth strategies. It's very interesting the way people have been looking at from the COVID point of view. When as investors, when we look at what is really the need of the hour, we realize that especially in the education vertical, it's no longer a question of looking just at how people are looking at the schools or the chain of schools which are currently operating. The entire focus is in terms of saying, how can we look towards ensuring that the investments we make in schools or the entire ecosystem related to the entire school environment, which includes services or IT services providers for the schools, how are they actually bearing up in the COVID scenario, and what should we be ready with in the post-COVID-19 situation? And that's where my perspective is actually going to be looking at it from a school's point of view, but it's very relevant for any service provider to look towards how do they help the schools to tackle post-COVID-19. And before you get into that aspect, it's very important for us to do a kind of an impact assessment, of what COVID-19 has actually resulted in for all of us. Prashansa, as a part of our earlier kind of a presentation, did touch upon some of these points which are very, very relevant. It's not just from an India perspective, but from a global perspective, what we have seen is there has been a shutdown which has happened of schools. People overnight, literally, it's not just in India, but whether it's the US, whether it's Singapore, whether it's Malaysia, overnight, literally, they had to shut down the schools to avoid the risk of infecting or the percolation of infection across their entire student and faculty population. So that's a reality. Most of the schools today are still grappling with when to open. Now, the challenges which come across the readiness, be it from an infrastructure perspective or even from a teaching faculty point of view, to pivot to online education was very, very limited. Even till date, I have seen that there are very few schools which have been actually able to pivot to an online education. And there are multiple factors for that, right from accessibility to internet or a mobile internet, or looking at even the online kind of content which is available to teach readiness of students, having the right infrastructure. There could be a variety of reasons. But what is worrying, or globally the situation, whether it's the governments which are getting worried about, whether the schools are getting worried about it, there is what we potentially are talking about, a lost generation of students. And this is the biggest worry which people are concerned about today. The impact of the lost generation is not just immediate, but it's going to actually hit us in years. Given the fact that we are talking about, if the concepts which are being taught to students in the schools are today not clear, that's going to have an issue with respect to their understanding as they move forward. And of course, everybody is very aware of the fact that if there are certain students who are not able to actually complete their, grade 12, for example, how do they take online exams? How do they get into the next level of education? And people are passing out from the colleges, again, issues with respect to jobs. So there is a kind of a domino effect which we are seeing. And that is where this entire focus on the lost generation of students and how to overcome that is becoming a very critical factor. There is still a big uncertainty with respect to the reopening of schools. And even if the schools do reopen, what is the focus with respect to how do we, if we open, how do we protect our students? How do we protect faculty? How do we ensure that there is an isolation of any cases which come across? These are very, very real problems which people are faced with today. And that is what a lot of countries are today even going to the extent of saying there'll be no reopening till either a vaccine is found or at least this entire year is a washout for us. Let's talk about next year. And at the same time, even if some schools do open, in some countries like South Korea, in Vietnam, Australia, where the schools have reopened, the challenges which are constantly there from a fear factor is both from a parents and a student's point of view, in terms of what happens even if one case has come across. Is my child safe? Is social distancing being maintained in the particular school, which the child is going to? So these are definite real problems, and that's a kind of an impact assessment which we have been doing of the situation. On the other hand, when we look towards the tech readiness of education institutions, we realize that most of it has been very tactical as opposed to strategic. Be it in terms of saying, am I ensuring my accounting systems are being run properly? And I've done computerization there. Am I maintaining records of students? And that is something which is my tech readiness. A lot of governments have enforced ICT infrastructure today for smart classrooms. India has been also doing that. So have smart boards so that students can actually be even shown certain visual aspects of content during the course of their course. Right, so that's become the kind of an ICT readiness or an tech readiness from an infrastructure perspective. And last but not least, for specialized concepts, there is probably some educators, and that could be very limited to some specific educators. They're talking about sharing online content. But in this aspect, I think I would be not incorrect in assuming that students today are far ahead in terms of their tech adoption or access to looking towards even the the online content, as opposed to what they're facing or seeing today in most of the schools in India. And that's where, whether you look towards some of the tools like Byju's, or in the past what Khan's Academy had started off, this entire aspect was in terms of online learning, is gaining a lot of prominence. And that's something which education institutes need to, especially given today's situation, need to look towards how do we adopt, or look towards adapting ourselves to be more relevant in today's infrastructure. And this picture to me was very, very interesting, because I call it the need of the hour, but what it depicts is an empty classroom, but teaching is still going on, right? And that is where, for schools to be relevant in the post-COVID economy, staying relevant through a combination of offline and online teaching methodologies through technology adoption is going to be extremely critical. I look at the entire aspect from, and when I talk about myself, I'm looking at more from the investment community. Today, for any investments which are made in, let's say, a school chain or even schools by the VC or the private equity community, most of us today are looking at three pillars from a technology adoption perspective, or the critical success factors. The first one is what we term as the infrastructure readiness. Whether we like it or no, COVID-19 is here to stay. It'll be very similar to the flu. There will be a very seasonality aspect to this. There'll be new variants which are coming across. Even today, when we look at COVID-19, globally, there are multiple variants which are existing. So keeping that in mind, I think what's going to happen is that schools need to be prepared with one of the first aspects, what we in the technology space call as the Internet of Things. But in reality, the relevance of schools is going to be temperature monitoring. This is something most offices are doing today, which have reopened, that they are actually ensuring that anybody who walks into the office, be it an employee or a visitor, there's a temperature monitoring carried out right at the entrance. And during the course of the full workday, at least a couple of random temperature monitoring activities are carried out. At the same time, maintenance of social distancing or safe distancing is going to be very critical. So probably we will see an end to the era where there were 40 or 50 students which were huddled in a classroom with very little distance between each of them. To avoid the spread of the pandemic, it's going to be critical to ensure that there is safe distancing maintained, which is also going to be very critical to enhancing the ICT infrastructure, right? Because it's got to support what we call as a dual mode today, a combination of online and offline methodologies, whereby the same classroom, probably with half the capacity and on a rotational basis, but the classes going on as usual, with maybe 50% of students being in the classroom and the balance 50% taking the lessons from home, and then rotating on a weekly basis, for example, right? And this is going to be important while they're in school itself, to track the moment, to ensure that in case there is a detected case, contact tracing can be carried out, right? And this can be done through a combination with respect to your student iCards, but this is going to be important. So IoT and the enhancement of ICT infrastructure is going to be very critical. And God forbid, if there is a second wave or a third wave, as they're calling it, how do the schools pivot immediately to the online mode to ensure against the loss of teaching time, or even the examinations to be conducted on a timely basis? But here's also an opportunity. There has been a lot of students who are unable to attend because of financial reasons, schools, and they used to focus on night schools today, which is now pivoting towards online schools. And at the same time, there are a few schools which are very coveted, and the chains of schools which are very coveted, not just in India, but overseas as well, from the same curriculum perspective. So is there an opportunity in the making where, through a combination of the dual mode of ICT infrastructure, we could expand the reach of the school beyond the physical proximity of boundaries which are there today? So that's another aspect which we are going to be seeing, coming up shortly. At the same time, the infrastructure availability for students is going to be critical. Singapore, for example, last week announced that they are accelerating the process of giving laptops or tablets to their students by 7 years. So every secondary school student in Singapore by 2021 will have access to a laptop or a tablet so that they can actually pivot to an online education on a constant basis. And that becomes very important in the school to say, if that is going to be the future, then we need to have the right kind of tools and technologies, be it the learning management system, the testing solutions, the student information systems, but they also need to look towards seeing how do we enhance the skills of our teaching faculty to look towards creating content which is going to be unique to our institute, which is what is going to make our institute coveted, and it's going to be very, very relevant in the current situation as well. And that would also mean the teaching faculty relooks and looks at resetting the entire expectation to what the current generation of students who are more used to mobile phones, who are more used to tablets, and also have a very short attention span. Can we look towards gamification of the lectures, of the entire classes, so that the testing can also be fun for the students? And that's where the entire online learning and testing approach needs to undergo a sea change. And the third pillar, which comes across, is extending the two aspects of having the right infrastructure, the right tools, to look towards taking a lot of conversations offline. We call it the integrated collaboration system, but the entire focus here is today's students are very, very averse to even looking at emails. Our generation was very, very heavily dependent on emails, but today it's more with respect to how do we use social interaction tools like WhatsApp and the likes of that, Instagrams, etc. So can we actually, talk to them in the language that they understand, using the tools they understand? And that's where having the right kind of a student information system, which integrates seamlessly with the social interaction tools of today or social collaboration tools of today, is going to be very, very critical. And last but not least, how do we ensure that there is end-to-end visibility across this operation of the school, across the performance of the students, not just to the students, but to the parents and the teachers, and there are analytics driving that. So this entire ecosystem is going to be very, very critical to drive what we call as the school of the future. And with that, I come to the last slide, basically just indicating that either the schools adopt technology and adapt with all the kind of modern tools which are available and infrastructure which is available to not only survive, but also grow and create value. So this is going to be the way investors are going to be looking towards the relevance of the schools or any IT technology which is going to actually help in terms of enhancing the school infrastructure. So that's going to be the critical aspect for any investor to look at from. With that, I hand it over back to Himani. Stay safe, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Thank you for bringing across the insights. Thank you for enlightening and educating us. It was really informative. Empty classes, but teaching should still go on. You were right mentioning that in this time of crisis, a well-rounded and effective educational practice is what needed for the capacity building of young minds. It will develop skills that will drive their employability, productivity, health, and well-being in the decades to come, and ensure the overall progress of India. I'm sure the education audience here can relate each and every word you said, sir. I'm sure they must have gained ample of information from your speech. Right, audience? And yes, I can see the number of questions in chat. We will answer them all shortly. So now, I would like to invite our next speaker, Damodar Singh. Mr. Damodar Singh Welcome, sir. He is the founder president of Society for Unaided Private Schools of Rajasthan and would have seen all the ups and downs of the education world. He has been consulting institutes and making them future ready with his vast industry and legal insights. Perhaps one of the best people to be talking to us on how education institutes would be in the new world. Welcome, sir. Looking forward for an insightful session. Over to you, sir. Sir, are you there? Damodar, sir, are you there? Wait for a few minutes, audience. We will just try to connect him. I'm sorry, audience. We tried hard to connect Mr. Damodar Singh, but due to some technical glitches, we are unable to contact and we are unable to connect with him. So let's give 1 more minute. We are still trying to connect. So just bear with patience. Just more 2 minutes. If we will get connected, he will be sharing his views on it. So just bear with patience for 1 minute, please. I guess he has some technical issues, so we won't be able to connect. I'm sorry for this inconvenience caused. So let's not waste time. Let's welcome our last but not the least, Mrs. Mamta Mehrotra, Principal of Bishop's Court Boys School, Patna. A renowned author and writer herself, Mamta Mehrotra is a school worker and a social thinker. She's a social worker and a social thinker. At present, working with Bishop's Court Boys School, she is a social and human rights activist and founder of Parivesh and established the women's cell under the name of Surya Mahila Kosham. She is a resource person at BIPAR, a government organization, and works on women's rights as human rights. She is an active worker fighting for the cause of women on various issues. As a counselor for cases in domestic violence, she has worked in an NGO called Surya Mahila Kosham. Besides, she is a versatile writer and has been an editor of various magazines such as Samajik Parivesh and Vartaman Sandarbh. A PhD on her work has been awarded and is to be published in 8 Indian languages. Associated with SERT, State Center for Education Research and Training, she writes course books for secondary and senior secondary classes in English. She has written several books in English and Hindi on gender issues also. So once again, let's welcome her. Over to you, ma'am. Now let's welcome our last but not the least, Mamta Mehrotra. Over to you, ma'am. Now we welcome last but not least, Mr. Mamta Mehrotra, Principal of Bishop Scott's Boys School, Patna, a renowned author and writer herself. Mamta Mehrotra is a social worker and a social thinker. At present, working with Bishop Scott Boys School, she is a social and human rights activist and founder of Parivesh and established the women's cell under the name of Surya Mahila Kosham. She is a resource person at BIPAR, a government organization, and works on women's rights as human rights. She is an active worker fighting for the cause of women on various issues. As a counselor for the cases in domestic violence, she has worked in an NGO Surya Mahila Kosham. Besides, she is a versatile writer and has been an editor of various magazines such as Samajik Parivesh and Vartaman Sandarbh. A PhD on her work has been awarded and is to be published in 8 Indian languages. Associated with SERT, State Center for Education, Research and Training, she writes course books for secondary and senior secondary classes in English. She has written several books in English and Hindi on gender issues also. So let's welcome her. Over to you, ma'am.
Good evening, everyone. First of all, let me extend my deepest of apologies. Mrs. Mamta Mangaleshwar, our principal, won't be able to join us because of the...
Ma'am, could you please speak a bit louder? We are unable to hear you. We can see your screen and your presentation is also visible to us, but your sound is not audible, ma'am. Could you speak a bit louder, ma'am?
Is it audible?
Not very clearly, ma'am. It's very low. The sound is coming, but sound is coming very low.
Good evening, everyone. I hope my voice is audible to everybody.
Yes, sir. It's audible, sir.
So first of all, let me convey my deepest of apology as Mrs. Mamta Mehrotra ma'am is not available right now due to some urgent issues. So I hope I'll be able to communicate her points and views to the entire audience here. And please pardon me if I make some mistake on her behalf. So if I hope the screen is visible to everybody and audio is clear, I'll continue. Is it?
Yes, sir. You can continue.
Thank you. So the COVID-19, it's a destructive situation for everyone. It's like the black swan, an unexpected happening with a very remote origin and for beyond human comprehensive. That's where the COVID outbreak occurred, which has taken over the whole world by surprise and definitely our country to the worst to be affected, and these are our children. So many reports have come across 157 crores across the children throughout the world have been impacted because of this ongoing pandemic, and 32 crores students in our country have been affected because of this situation. The board exams have been postponed. The entrance exams for civil services, JEE, NEET have been postponed. College examinations are impacted because of COVID-19. This year, everything is all the chaos created by it. The lockdown due to COVID-19 has been more chaotic experience which has affected our life in all the ways and shutting down school and colleges, one amongst them. Schools are having online classes, good private schools having an infrastructure and the means to prepare proper online lectures, and the receiver, who is the child, has all the means to receive the information, is not at a losing end. They have internet to access information and faring and doing better. But as the way we move ahead, the school, they have been the most affected. We at Bishop Scott Boys School stood as a team and turned out to be role model for all during this tough time of pandemic conditions. Schools were closed overnight, students were liberated from schools but confined to their homes. Parents had to grapple with keeping children productive at home. There has been a huge surge in phrases like how to teach online, best online teaching platforms, online teaching tools, and online teaching techniques, and the search continued. Finding the right online teaching platform was just the first step. Learning how to use the various features correctly is important, but using a platform and its features to teach effectively and ensure that all students are indeed learning is the paramount. And we struggled a lot. The entire team struggled a lot. It was difficult. The ICT team, the teachers, everybody has gone through a different kind of R&D. And we kept on doing it throughout the day, throughout the month. The search was something endless. And then came the platform of Microsoft Teams, which provided us all the answers to the search which we were doing. The school came up with so many teams to collaborate with the condition on a parallel mode. We all were at distant places. Nobody was in front of each other. We had to collaborate. We used WhatsApp group. We used different ways and means to collaborate with all the teachers, the coordinators. The HOD team led by the principal. The academic team led by the vice principal and the school coordinator. The editing team led by the ICT teachers. The online messaging group, email and communication system, parents communication system, calling in charges. All these WhatsApp group was working throughout the day, throughout the night. We were getting messages from the parents, from the teachers, from the external sources, and we had to coordinate for all the things coming to us. Integration of academics and co-curricular activities was a great challenge. We came up with YouTube channels. We came up with WhatsApp classes. We came up with audio and video files being sent to the students. The online study material was a unique idea. It was not only a study material. It was interactive in nature. With all notes, there were links. There were links for YouTube channel. There were links for online tests. There were links for interactive features. And it took time for the teachers. Most of them were having mobile phones. They were not having laptop. We made a core editing team, which was working throughout in collaboration with them, working out in such a condition that certainly helps them. We came up with RPAs, revision practice assignment. We came up with integrated projects. The idea was to keep the students engaged. The idea was to keep the parents in touch. The idea was to keep everybody as a team united and engaged. The stress was going on, was building up day by day. Then we came up with the idea of online assessment. Was very tough. We never did it. The parents were new, the students were new. It was a new thing for everybody. We came up with a lot of technical issues, but the team was working hard. The online PTM, which we took with the help of Microsoft Teams, was something new in the entire city, rather the entire state, and we became the final school in successfully conducting it. The online reports were shared with the parents. The online data was shared with the parents. The grievances cell, a separate unit was made, which kept on handling all the things coming to us. Integration of yoga, art, music, and dance classes to de-stress the students from the present conditions was the demand of the time. And yes, co-curricular team has given the answers to all the questions coming to us. Parallel team working on several fronts to keep the teachers free of stress for a particular duration was done. The co-curricular team took the entire online summer camp on their own. Addressing each and every issue of the parent to keep in touch with the system was a great challenge. And still that challenge is in front of us, and we are trying our best to sort out all the issues coming to us. And yes, the team, the technical team, the SIS team is with us standing from the day we have collaborated. They are answering our mail, they are answering our calls, and of course, they were with us. That's why we were able to provide all the solutions for the problems coming to us. We have always sent our children to school, but now things have changed. Now teachers are coming home. Whether we or they like it or not, doesn't matter. What matters is parents and teachers finding and establishing a new equilibrium and a new normal. Inclusive learning solutions, especially for the most vulnerable and marginalized, need to be developed. Still, that gap is there, and we have to work on building up that gap. As a school, we are also facing it. We have about a good number of students whom we are not able to contact, whom we are not able to collaborate or integrate in the system till now. We are looking for the solution. We are looking for the alternate ways and means. Fine. So this can change the schooling system and increase the effectiveness of learning and teaching, giving students and teachers multiple options to choose from. Maybe a lot of negative things have been talked about, but this has made the team of teachers, this has made the students and parents very close enough. Now the entire team is very strongly collaborating. The entire team is moving strongly ahead, and we see that in future the teaching at Bishop Scott Boys School will definitely change.